moving around a little bit, going slightly up and down, a few centimeters left, a few centimeters right, and that can always, especially if there's a bit of contact with a bit of bum drafting, that can always spin a car around. And we did see it quite a few times at Pocono, cars getting turned sort of sideways into the wall, so the car on the inside getting spun to the outside of the track. It definitely happens very, very quickly. As you come across the lines, go on to lap 9, Sherp still leading the way, but there's a huge run on that outside line.
Yeah, big old run on the outside right now. As 2x2 they go around these super high speed bankings here at Talladega and then down the big long straightaway. I think it's the second one where it's the Alabama gang back stretch. And yeah, there's just so much heritage here at this track. A bit of a party to come here. They come here twice a year in the NASCAR Cup Series. It's one on my list to go and check out and see what it's all about.
Oh, definitely. It's such a something to behold, and it's just such a huge facility. The banking is absolutely massive as well around this course, and of course with the just the history as well. It's certainly an impressive thing as the 4 hits the front with Oliver Bohlin in the 72 behind. We were mentioning how he struggled a bit in the qualifying, but that doesn't matter because at some point they might even be able to drop down and join that front pack, because we've only got 4 cars, maybe 5 in the outside line. One of Lundo, I think it is, trying to get on the back, but actually no, they drop down and they're all going to try and filter in. That is a very difficult thing to do with no space being there down at the front. They're starting to separate those. The 4's gone out the front by a car length. That's going to slow down until they come up behind, and that means on the outside line, Holmerin actually is going to get the run. As we come through the trioval, will he be able to lead a lap as well? There's a 37. Yes, but Ericsson, he's worked his way to the front. Just showing you that the race strategy is what's more important around here. And as we go across the line, yep, Holmerin gets a lap led.
Yeah, Fagrell there just getting a little bit hung out to dry as the faster train came through. But we did briefly there have an expectant mother leading the race. That's cool. I think I've ever called a race with that before, certainly not knowingly.
That's a good point, actually. Of course, we love to see women coming into sim racing, and therefore the percentage of that being a smaller. Plus, obviously, therefore the fact that they're pregnant and doing sim racing is certainly a very nice factor for the number 4. And actually, I think it says due in July, so still about 5 months away, but still getting on the sim, which is what we like to see. Is we've come down to pretty much a single file formation. There's Lundberg in the background trying to pull someone up, trying to work out a second line, but I think he's going to have to go back in if he wants to hold on to the train.
So now down into one single file formation after 12 laps of running. Oh, a bit of a moment there. Gets very loose there, does the number 4 Chevy of Amélie Fagrell. Just got down onto the bottom line there, and the car just got really loose and excitable. Of course, we'll see that as the race progresses and as the kind of stint progresses, the run progresses, you'll see the cars will they'll get a little bit tight, or they'll get a little bit loose, and the tyre goes away, and your driver's got to adapt to that as they go along. The best lap of the race right now, dipping into the sort of high 48s, a 48.8 there for Oscar Fredriksson. 48.8 for Kim Nyholm as well, but now the pace now going into the mid 49. So that ultimate pace at the beginning of the race is just now starting to fade back as the tyre begins to wear.
And also, they're definitely separated a lot more in terms of the sort of the bump drafting and the push drafting effect. And of course, we've gone down to the single line for the whole train, pretty much. Everyone's decided that they don't want to go away and go for a push. They want to sit in this single file train for now and just see where it brings them. We're on lap 13 of 82. So we're almost coming up to halfway through the stage at lap 35. We're expecting fuel to go beyond the 30 lap count, but how far they can go all depends on how they're managing this. And in the background, we've actually got a second train, unfortunately, that's dropped off and they've lost the draft. They're going to need a caution or something to catch back up.
Yeah, that's that. When as soon as you lose that train, then it's you're in big trouble. It can only get worse from there. So yeah, caution will be required to bring that train back in again, but you can be sure that there'll be something happen at some stage. Whether it happens between now and the end of the stage at lap 35 remains to be seen, but it's the Chevrolet of Holmgren being chased down by, well, Mr. Svenska Eracingligan in the NASCAR cars. Jesper Eriksson, a 5-time winner this season. What a run he's had.
And to be honest, he should have won last round at Pocono as well. But for some reason, on one of the final cautions, with like 7 laps to go or something really small, he decided to pit. Of course, he was leading, so he was going to the left-hand side, and no one followed him in. And that's the only reason why he didn't really win that race, or at least finish up inside the top 3. So very sort of unfortunate there in some ways. Sometimes you do have to try something. And being out the front, it makes it that little bit more difficult. So we're on the outside line there. We've got just a 2-car train trying to make something work. I think Linus Brewstrom is one of them, trying to push a driver up towards the front as they want to do something, not necessarily sit there. As here is Dennis Schupp. Now that is a beard. I like that.
I'm just thinking the same thing. That takes maintenance, patience, the right
it's
product.
Trimmed as well. It's so straight at the bottom. It does take care of that.
Gone into that.
I wonder how many euros are spent on that per month. That must be a solid bill.
Yes, or krona, as the case may be.
That's a good point. It's krona in Sweden, isn't it? But I'm sure he's loving that one. Of course, got his wheel in the background as well. Hopefully, he's got another one that he's driving, and he's not just trying to rotate the base on its own. That wouldn't be very good.
He's maybe got a specific NASCAR base. I know that Linus Brostrom has the proper big NASCAR wheel, which is very cool. And quite good for, the finesse required. You often hear uninformed people say, oh, it's just turning left. It really isn't. It's so nuanced. These cars are absolute monsters, and they require just little delicate touches all the time. You've got to be so finessed. There you go. Big wheel rim. So look at it. It's moving all the time. It's never, ever staying still.
Yeah, the car's always dancing around. And you have to remember, they are going so fast that any little micro adjustment as well on the steering just pulls the car massively to the left, to the right, and then the rear, of course, is always on the limit of grip going around the corners. It is just micro adjustments, but that's what you've got to keep on top of. And it was Brewstrom pushing Skoglund there, and I think it was Schupp who came up ahead of them as they try and make this second train finally work. Drivers joining in behind. It was stayed single file for about 5 laps or so, but now they realise it's time to go again.
Yeah, and you can just see there just how the concentration required as you're going for that bump draft. You've got to be super careful. If you get it wrong and you mistime it, you can create a massive wreck. So, and Lena's got a bit of a run here as he popped. Just almost thought about making it 3 wide there, and then down to just back into line again. They're thinking about it. It's getting a little bit more spicy. We're halfway towards the end of the stage at lap 35, and we're toying with changing lanes there.
This is getting messy. Up, down, in the middle. Where are you going to go? The 83 goes out to the front, but of course has a huge space in behind, so they'll slow down. But then here comes the push from the 71 and Hawkenshot, the 101 as well. As they close up, we've got bum drafting down below. As we've got Schupp with Holmgren in behind. It's certainly a tricky game to keep on top of. But you see Brewstrom there. He dropped way down towards the top 10. And is now up towards the front. Fagro's always leading. Then they've gone back down to the P10 position. So very easily you can go up and down in this series. Really need to keep on top of that as the gaps start to open up a little bit further back, but then of course close up when you get on the straightaways. But you don't want to get it too big and lose that draft, otherwise it'll be very difficult to catch back up.
So we've got the 83 of Skoglund there leading the train on the top line, trying to run up a little bit closer again, actually quite close up to the cushion there, and then the others right down on the bottom line. And that's what's so interesting and intriguing about this type of racing, is just being able to position your car at such high speed and position it in exactly the right places and make those tiny nuanced little judgments as you go. And this was something that, this form of racing is something that Dale Earnhardt was so strong at, Jeff Gordon was so strong at, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was brilliant at, but you get other drivers that still, Martin Truex Jr., one of the best drivers in NASCAR, but super speedways just aren't his thing. So it's very much a different style compared to the regular ovals and the short tracks.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I think less so in the sim in many ways, but also in real life. You have to remember the spotter is so important as well, of having the foresight to see the runs coming, to work out what is going to happen and where to position your driver. It's a very, very, very important skill. but then it also comes down to the team to employ those sort of people and scout them as well. So it's all one big thing. But as you say, from the driving side of it, at the end of the day, you're the one pressing the pedals and steering the steering wheel. So if you see something, you need to be doing it as well. As we've seen a huge breakaway up towards the front. About half of the field is dropped off now. We were in single file for a long time. As they've started spreading out, we've got the top 15 or so who have remained. We're still in 2x2 formation up towards the front, although this low line is staying in the lead for now. But look at that. Definitely a huge split off the back.
Yeah, the drivers in that second group will be just praying for a caution, because we're only 14 laps away from the end of the stage. Now, unlike in the NASCAR Cup Series, we won't go to a caution when the stage finishes like we would in the outdoor world, if you like. We will just keep racing, so the points are handed out at the pass of the flag when lap 35 is complete.
Yeah, and it's an interesting rule with that, actually, because it means your decisions also kind of affect how you go further into race, because maybe realistically you might pit now if it was a track where there was loads of drop off. We haven't really seen that just because they restrict space, etc. But on other tracks, if there's huge drop off, maybe you want to pit now. But then if you pit now, you're actually going to have to make 3 stops, not 2. So it's a very difficult one, as the 11 gets hung out to dry there. Holmerin goes past the 37 as well. And also the 112 of Fredriksson from the back of the field works his way up towards the front. That is a huge run that Holmerin had. And actually 4 cars come through. Helmbro goes to the front. And look at the gap that they've got as well. It really is quite extreme, as we have a 6-car breakaway at the front.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, a little bit of a breakaway there, and a perfect example of how you can just get left for dead. If there's 3 or 4 cars that want to make a move and they coordinate correctly, you will just get passed like you're tied to a lamppost. And that's exactly what happened there to the 11 of Dennis Scherp, but he's still in that lead group. He can hand out in the exact same punishment with some other dancing and drafting partners there as well. And of course, there's no at the moment, no place in the playoffs for Dennis Scherp. So if he could get a win today, that could catapult him into the playoff conversation. What a story that would be. And he's up there as well. Holmerin, he's not locked into the playoffs yet either. So there's a few drivers in this leading group who are right in the hunt.
And that is that's part of the game of this style of racing, of course, getting the all-important win in the regular season. Doesn't matter if it's the first race or the last. It might be very crucial. As we said, it's actually 7 cars in that lead pack, but these ones in behind, led by Araldson, the number 24, couple-of-time race winner this season, they really need to try and catch back up, because if we do stay green for quite a while, that gap is only ever going to get bigger if they have lost the draft, and it is sort of 1.3 seconds, so they need to be working together, getting a nice sort of 2-3 driver bump draft up towards the front, and they should just about be okay, but they are right on the limit there of losing that train completely, so need to be very careful indeed. We're going to come to start lap 25, so 10 laps remaining in this stage.
Alex Araldson in 8th right now in this race, but just losing that 7-car breakaway at the front there. But he doesn't need to worry too much. He's 6th in the standings, and with a win to his, in fact 2 wins to his name, one at North Wilkesboro on the short track and the other at Las Vegas. So he's very much locked into those playoffs and very much a race to go out and enjoy. Now, who is that down below the bottom line?
That is not allowed. The below the apron is forbidden, apart from off turn 4 on the final lap. And is that someone having an issue? That's the 111 of Bratberg. Oh, is he laps down? That's why he is 3 laps down in this race. I didn't actually see what happened to him, but he certainly is there. And talking of people at the back, as they all come into the pit lane, lap 25. That is an interesting one in terms of the strategy. We thought they'd be going a lot earlier, so a lot later in the stint, I should say. But I just realized all of the Alcantech cars are at the back. Uhrmann, Gunnarsson, Blix, Hafliderson, Solo, they're all at the back. So strategic games coming. And we've seen a slightly earlier pit stop than we were expecting. This is going to slightly change things, how they work their way through. We've remained under green flag conditions, but the drivers deciding to come in. Of course, you want to come in as a pack as well, Peter, to not lose the draft on the exit.
That is interesting. Very interesting indeed. I do wonder if maybe they saw a car going slow, thinking it was going to grind to a halt and throw a yellow. I don't know. They could go off the lead lap here if they're not careful.
As there's the train of Alcantech cars. Look at all of them working together. That is absolutely crazy to be dropping that far back. But you are right about that one. As did they already make a pit stop? Yes. So had they? Yes. All of the Alcantech cars. We actually missed that. They've already did their pit stop 9 laps ago, and that might be where the other drivers are starting to react to that. So they're trying to work together. They're trying to stay together. They almost did get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at Pocono. Is this going to work for a top 5?
Well, they're clearly trying to use the group strategy run in a very coordinated train. It's a gallop of Mustangs there, all just hooked in together, working round to just run into a program, running to a specific strategy, and it is their branded race, the Alcantech Racing McRace 350. So it's a big one for them to win if they can for Alcantech. Interesting stuff. I mean, especially for those drivers who are in that lead group, Holmgren, Ericsson, Fredriksson, Helmbro, etc. They, I don't think they've got enough fuel to make it to the stage. They have to pit, I think.
And that might work quite well for these Alcantech cars. They might be able, if they work together nicely, as they're doing a bit of. You see that in the velodrome with the cycles, the bicycles, with the front driver going to the back of the field after they've been obviously at the front for a while. So it's certainly an interesting strategy that might come their way. As you see a few other drivers come into pit lane this time around. We're on lap 28 of 82. Holmgren leads with Ericsson, Fredriksson, Helmbro, Sherp, all inside that top group. But there is a pit stop coming, and we are going to see where they're going to come out in terms of those Alcantech drivers who are down this back straightaway. Obviously half a lap behind, but is it going to be enough to try and jump to the front?
So Alcantech have been very disciplined here to run this kind of tandem strategy, if you like. It's common in this type of racing for teammates to coordinate and work together. And actually, it's a good to have teammates around you, but also your friends rather than foes. If you've done somebody wrong on the track, you're not going to get a bump forward from somebody. You're going to be left hung out to dry. So it's a type of racing as well where there is definitely an account of checks and balances of whether you've been naughty or nice. A bit like Santa's List, but with bump drafting.
It's a very interesting game, actually, from what you're saying, because obviously we say rubbing's racing, but you've got to be careful who you're rubbing, because if you start pushing people out of the way, or trying to just sort of slide them up in the corners and all this sort of stuff, obviously especially on the short tracks, but also on the super speedways, just turn a driver around, more so in real life, but also in the sim, you start making a bad name for yourself. And it's not necessarily like bad karma, but if you start being argy-bargy to other people, they're not going to be nice to you. And it's definitely definitely one of those things where you've got to keep your enemies close in this style of racing. Lap 30 is going to turn into lap 31. Is there going to be anyone else coming down to pit road? No, they remain out. Are they going to try get the extra 5 laps from here to the end of the stage?
Well, let's see. By our intelligence, it's not possible, but we'll see. We understand 30 to 32 is the range, and the pace has been pretty strong at the front of the field. So we'll find out in due course. That leading group now is only 5 cars, so few of them have dropped off. Brostrom dropping in to the pits right now. Holmboom also, but yeah, with only a 5-car break at the front now. 2 have dropped off.
There's more than 5 cars there, so was it Bratberg? Well, it's a few drivers actually who obviously laps down as we see them all coming in. So end of lap 31, and this is going to be very interesting. Where do they come out in relation to the Alcantech cars? The Alcantech cars, they pit very early. If they want to do a 2-stop, they need to do 2 36, 37 lap stints to the end of this race. It's a long stretch on the fuel run, and they must be hoping for some sort of cautions, but are they going to get the all-important playoff points at lap 35, which would be so crucial for some of these drivers a little bit later on when we get to that stage, and let's see how this one works out. Coming on towards the tri-oval, the Alcantech racers come, but remember, they're going to be up to racing speed. Even if they're behind, they're going to be absolutely freight training, and as we come across the line, it is going to be Alcantech cars who will take the effective race lead. We have Lidison and Solo, the front two of those drivers, and they are an absolute mile ahead of everyone else.
Yep, so that tandem strategy really working for the Alcantech cars. They'll just be praying now that they'll just stay clean for the next few laps. And they'll be looking very, very good indeed. Now, how do they choose? Now, do they choose who takes these stage points?
Championship order.
Yeah, who needs them?
I reckon surely it's got to be championship order. At least to me, that makes the most sense. And of course, or maybe just whoever they think is actually going to have a proper chance. Eric Blixt is off the back there in the 5th car. Surely he's going to be a little bit higher up, because he is above Gunnarsson and Uhrmann standings wise. So maybe they are going to turn around, but of course they still have a couple of laps to do so. It's lap 33. So it's 2.5 more laps to the end of 35, where 10 points will be given to the winner, and then 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to the rest of the top 10.
Yeah, so actually, yeah, they're all locked into the playoffs anyway. So that, yeah, I think it might be. I'd love to be in the team room right now to know what the decision is, or if it's just hold position, like stay where you are until we get through the stage, and then crack on from there. But this type of strategy really does require coordination, and it requires discipline, because it's just, it's unorthodox in some ways. So you've got to be committed to it. You've got to stick to it, because as soon as you start breaking formation, then it all falls to bits.
And it's gonna be a fun one to see where these drivers go with it. And of course, off the back of them is the 72 of Oliver Wallen, who's ended up a couple of laps down with how things have worked out. We've seen a little bit of a swap around there. So the 13, the 42, the 1, they all go through. Hafley goes to the back of the 5-car train with just 1 and a bit laps to go. And there's the second pack on the bottom right. There's quite a few Force drivers in there. But they're all Force drivers working together. Of course, they've got slightly different liveries, but they are all teammates. So we got the Alcantech cars 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then Alcantech from 6 to 9 as the two teams battle their way inside the top 10. But it's not really much of a battle now as you come on to lap 35.
Yeah, that second pack is 7.5 seconds further back. Incredible, isn't it? How big a gap, and how well Alcantech have run this opening phase of the race, this opening stage, and they're in a good spot to try and get these points. Now, are they going to fight for it, or is it going to be the 13 machine there of Daniel Solo who's going to get these stage points as they come around towards the start-finish line?
Surely they're not going to change now as they come around onto the start-finish straight on towards the tri-oval. And at the end of lap 35 here at Talladega, the Alcantech Racing Race 350 is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the stage for Alcantech at their own race, just showing you how well prepared they were. They've done a strategy blinder as we see the 13 take 10 extra playoff points, the 42, the 1, the 95 and the 81 all inside the top 5 with 4s, and your one driver of Scotland in the 83 for Bright Esports getting the final extra bonus playoff point. But of course, the race continues on, but Dan Solo gets the stage win.
Yeah, very, very good stuff from the Alcantech crew. And there are various different shades of Mustang there. Now, it's hard to tell with their liveries. Have we got the Dark Horse version yet in iRacing?
Yes.
We do.
Yep, all the models are updated about a month ago now.
Okay, fantastic.
And this is the second or third race we've had.
Fantastic.
Yes, it's great. And it wasn't so fun, though, because it came out on something like the Monday or the Tuesday. And then, of course, our race is on the Thursday. So a bit of a quick one for the livery designers to get the updates. Although I believe the rest of the car was pretty much the same. It's just the front. But yes, we do have the updated chassis, and very mean. All three of them actually with the updates for this year. Yeah,
I have to say I like the Dark Horse Mustang. I think it's very, very cool, and I'm a big fan of the Toyota as well, the Camry. It's how it's just all sort of smoothed over. It's clearly the team's working hard on the aero side of things. It's not just a branding exercise.
And one thing that's just popped in my head, actually, they pit. Actually, I can't remember what lap they pit now. Let's have a look. Yeah, so they pit on lap 17. Okay, so it's a little bit further. I thought we were getting a little bit closer to their pit stop than we were. So they're sort of almost over halfway through this stint already. So I just wonder how long this domination is, because they pit so early, that is going to catch up with them at some point, surely, later on in the race, because they're going to need to take more fuel, for one, but also just with when their pit stops happen, they might need to do a lot of fuel saving to the end of this race if it stays green.
They may well do, and judging by the conduct of the driver so far, I would not be surprised to see it go green deep into the race, because it's just been so high quality, so really strong awareness driving all the way through the field. So we haven't had any silly incidents throwing cautions. So yeah, it is going to go deep on it, and I guess it will get to the point where Alcantech will be hoping for a caution to try and bring them kind of back on strategy, and so that they don't kind of get brought back to the field in terms of, if they've got to pit under green now, it could well just adjust back again.
Yeah, I think it's one of these races we kind of started poking as well. It's going to go green for obviously deep in the race. We're almost halfway through the race, but once you get that first caution, it will be caution after caution after caution. There'll probably be 5, 6, 7 cautions to the end of this race, subject to the timing of that, obviously. But that's generally what happens. So the longer it stays green, I think it's actually the worst for Alcantech. But they are swapping around at the front, so I think they are trying to play the strategic fuel game, trying to make each other save fuel. But is it going to be enough? As we're on lap 40 of 82 here for the Alcantech Racing Race 350, and they all remained at the front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's almost as if cautions breed cautions.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Has that ever been said before on broadcast?
Well, I think if you haven't already got it on your bingo card,
bingo. Yeah, certainly. It is true, though. It is absolutely true. We had this back at North Wilkes. What was that, about 2 rounds ago now, where we had the double header there. The first race went green the whole race. The second race, we had 13 cautions. Because as soon as you get that first one, you bunch everyone back up, and it just gets a little bit crazy as they swap around once more. As the 42 goes down, the number 1 goes up towards P1, and is Gunnison going to have a bit of a late run towards this championship? We are yet to find out. Of course, the reigning champion carrying that machine, that number 1 machine, but is it going to be enough for him to work that one out? Currently sitting in P8 of the standings.
That's going to be. We're going to find out over the next few weeks in the next few rounds. In the playoffs, in the chase, and it goes right down to that finale with just 5 drivers getting through to the finale for what is always a super exciting way to decide a champion. And it's been a long season for these drivers. You've got to be consistent all the way through to be able to get yourself in that playoff situation, and then not have bad luck all the way through the playoffs. It's a hard thing to get a championship here,
and people will start racing you a little bit differently in the playoffs once there's a little bit more sense of the prize coming. And of course, we have some slightly shorter tracks as such. We don't have any of the big super speedways to come to the end of the championships. That always makes it a little bit more difficult. As we take a look back at this second pack, so we've got Holmgren, we got Ericsson, Fredriksson and Aronson all leading the way, but then we got some bright esports cars in behind there. We got Skoglund, we got Broström, Håkan Schott, and I think it's Fagerl on the back of that as well. So they're working together. So we've got the Force drivers and the Bright Esports drivers working their way through, trying to do something. We did try and see a bit of a 2x2 there, but that wasn't quite working, so they've remained. But they are 7.5 seconds off. Of course, if Alcantech pitting so early, they would have had a lot shorter pit stop, because they would have still started the race with the full tank and then sort of pitted with half a tank, whereas everyone else did a full refill. So that, of course, gained some seconds. Plus the strategy of being on their own is certainly working out very well. But I wonder, Peter, what can these drivers do? Because they can't really short fill at the next stop to catch up.
No, that's it. That have they kind of shown their hand too early? That's the question. And the gap is back to the second group is ever so slightly coming down. Of course, the tyres on the Chasing Forters Esports group effectively will be quite a bit fresher. So the Alcantech cars, not only will they be getting deep in on the fuel, they're going to be 5 laps before they need to come in and pit, but their tyres will be definitely getting past their best now.
Yeah, they certainly will, and that makes it a little bit more difficult to hold on as well when you're getting a bump draft from behind. And makes the rear just a little bit more loose. Got to be careful with that, and hopefully what we do see is all the teammates are working together, so that's actually working out nicely because they have a bit of communication there. It's certainly a bit more difficult when you have all the random sort of drivers around you and there's no direct communication. Makes it just that a little bit more difficult. But we are seeing, of course, these drivers further back try to work together, and we also have a third group just a little bit further back, so it's definitely not over for these drivers for catching up in some way, but we do need a caution for them if they want to be challenging for the race win, because the Alcantech cars are just so far up the road. As we've been mentioning, lap 45 of 82, and we've remained green flag all the way. Let's see how this one progresses, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do see the Alcantech cars struggling a little bit later in the race, fuel saving, so maybe they're going to have to start lifting off a bit and slowing down, but they do have that big buffer to eat into.
Yeah, they can use it, can't they? They've earned it up to this stage, and the Force Esports cars there, I'm sure they'll be doing everything they can to draft as well coordinated a way as they can. The few other machines in there too that aren't Force cars, so it's they've all got to try and work together as best as possible, keep moving forward and try and chase down those Alcantech Mustangs. And
it's going very well. On the previous lap, I mean, we're still seeing the Force drivers basically doing fastest laps of the race, still in the 48s. Fast lap of the race about 48.8, and we're seeing sort of 48.9s. So they are looking very, very good, whereas the cars up ahead, the Alcantech cars, are doing sort of 49.2s, 49.3s. That's a big swing around of pace, and as the race goes on, if that is just a few tenths a lap, they'll slowly start catching that in, but will it be enough? Of course, actually, let's come across the line. There's another quarter of a second they took on that previous lap. So you're right, Peter. They are bump drafting well. You can see how close they are together, but they just need to push. That's all they can do to the end of this race, is just go absolutely, fully at the speed that they can. Whereas I think we're more slightly pace limited for these drivers here on screen.
They are, yeah. Those tires, I think, now just starting to wear. I think for the as you get towards the end of the stint for the Alcantech cars, and also, them all coming into the pits at once. They've got to be very coordinated in terms of hitting their braking points, coming down into pit road, hit their marks, and then get back out again, all on a similar pit work. So it's going to be really, really interesting to watch them, see if they can get that right. Can the Alcantech Mustangs? And now they're coming down onto the low line. Are they going to... just doing a little bit of coordination here. The number 1 car just dropping back to the back of the queue. It's done its hard work at the front for Jonas Gunnarsson. Daisy.
I love what they did there. The 81 just slightly dropped back to make sure that they can keep it in Alcantech 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because Oliver Bohlin was a bit too close. Also, it's because they're coming down pit road. That is why. So lap 48 of 82. And that, of course, leaves quite a lot of laps to the end. It's 34. So actually, they did manage to save quite a few laps that time around. So I'm trying to do the quick maths in my head. I think they might be good. If they do this to the end, the exact same strategy with the 5 cars, I think they will be able to save the fuel to the end. And obviously, they would have done the maths of this in practice to know that it's going to work. Looking like it's... so coordinated so far, but is it going to be fast enough? They were already eaten in by a few seconds, with the lead that they had this time round. So they're going to have to do that once again as they come out. Are they going to be able to keep the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? No, one of them has dropped back. Can't quite see who it is. It might be Heflidison. Potentially, he's dropped off the back there. So it's had some sort of issue, some slightly longer stop, and now it's only going to be 4 cars up the front.
Well, I wonder what effect that will have. Certainly the car dropped off the back there is going to get hung out to dry and will be easy meat once the second group have completed their pit stops. But really now you're thinking, yes, they can get home without having to stop again for fuel at least for those Alcantech cars. But you throw a caution into the mix and they then have to worry about not getting hung out to dry with older tyres on and having to pit to take more tyres when others do. So it's all now, do we get a caution or not? But certainly deep into the race already, 50 laps, no cautions yet.
Yeah, it's worked out rather nicely, but I think it has helped that we've separated quite a bit in the opening 10-15 laps. It was very much so one train maybe trying to go too wide, but now that it's separated into these groups, sort of 5, maybe up towards 10 drivers in a group, that makes it a lot easier to control, a lot less variables, and all the teammates have found themselves together, so that helps as well. So it's definitely working good for those drivers as they work their way now down onto this backstretch. So this is now into the leading pack. And these drivers haven't changed order so much compared to the Alcantech cars, but they don't need to in terms of the fuel. We are expecting them to go a few more laps, but it's going to be no way near the offset that we saw a little bit earlier on in the race. It is going to be potentially another sort of 10 laps or so before we start seeing them coming down pit road. So they will have a shorter stop and gain a bit more time on the Alcantechs. But is it going to be that all-important 7 seconds that the lead was earlier?
Well, we'll find out, won't we? We'll find out very in the next 5-ish laps or so. Great to see as well there, Alex Arlidson running the 24, number so famous in NASCAR, the Hendrick Motorsport car, was made so famous by Jeff Gordon, who won here 6 times at Talladega, but now by William Byron, who won the Daytona 500 just a few weeks ago, and a sim racer himself. Sim racing being a very big part of William Byron's career journey, and great to see that showing relevance. And I think he's the most iRacers would be cheering him on for that reason.
Absolutely. And it is funny how the sim races actually get a little bit of a backing as such from the viewers and from the fans out there, which is very nice. And of course, whilst this championship specifically as well, the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan is a Swedish championship that'll be broadcast here on RaceSpotTV. All of these drivers, they race elsewhere as well, and there's quite a lot of the drivers who race at high level competitions, and there's certainly a high level still in this championship. Of course, there's still for instance like Lucas Holmgren up towards the front, still a C-class driver, 1.7 I rating, but there's plenty of sort of 4Ks in here and drivers who are working their way up the overall iRacing ranking and really sort of giving the Swedish communities a good name for themselves.
So, coming towards the end of the stint here then, at the end of this run, about 3 laps to go and fuel relief for Arildson, Skoglund, Broström, Hakenschott, etc. Whereas the Holmgren, Ericsson, Fredriksson, they've still got about, I reckon, 9 or 10 laps of fuel left if they want it.
Yeah, I reckon it's going to be bit after lap 60, depending on how much fuel that they've saved, obviously somewhere between 60-65 by the time they come in. But the stints were slightly shorter than we were expecting earlier for some drivers, so those may be a little bit sooner than we were expecting. Also, because the first stint was a bit shorter, that means they're going to have to take more fuel this time around, which actually helps Alcantech's strategy even more. Because these drivers will have to sit at the pit stall for another second or two, and it is going to come down to a few seconds by the time we get to the end of this race. That 55 of 82 we go And it's certainly still an interesting one to work out which strategy is going to work out being the best. And I do wonder who's done the maths correctly. But Peter, it's looking like Alcantech have done their homework. And that's probably why they were the sponsor of this race, really wanting to finish the regular season on a bang.
Yeah, they've clearly identified this one to have a go at, and they've seem to have the strategy up their sleeve right now. But this race is far from done. This is very classic Talladega, actually. You're really just preparing for those last 5 laps. Really, that shootout you'll see so many times here, where it's any one of 5 to 10 drivers or more could win the race in that run to the line. So just hold on for now, but it seems very much in a holding pattern at this stage.
Yeah, it's definitely a point of the race where they can't do too much right now. There's no reason for them to battle. There's no reason for the Bright Esports cars here to try and get past fours. They just need to stay in line and just do the best bomb drafting they can. Although I say that, the Force guys have actually just started to put away. And look at the lapped runners that are about to come in their way. That is going to be a bit of an awkward situation. We've got Holmbaum, Solo, Brostrom, all down there just a little bit. And I think there's a couple of other drivers further laps down who are in that pack. And that is going to be... yeah, that's going to be quite difficult for them to try and navigate through. They're absolute bum drafting. That is as fast as they can go. And the reason why they're doing it is because they want to get the slingshot around the outside. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough. And they just joined the back. And now is this going to be losing these drivers time as they try and ultimately catch down Alcantech on race strategy. So this would be a good time to come into the pit lane. And that is exactly what they do. As they don't really have too much choice. They don't want to lose the time to the traffic ahead. And now look at all of the top 8 drivers all coming into the pit lane.
And for those drivers who have got a little bit shorter into their stint, they don't need to spend as long at the pump filling up with gas. So just a quick stop, throw some new Goodyear tires on and go. Let's see where the Alcantech cars now, which are now a 3 rather than a 5. So interestingly, just a trio of Alcantech Dark Horse Ford Mustangs.
Yes, so trying to work this out. So it was Solo. So Solo had the slow stop. But where is Anton Uhrmann in all of this as well, as we see them fly their way through the pit exit there, all the drivers who were in the pit lane. What has happened to Anton Uhrmann as well? I have to try and read up on that, because he is obviously lost out in that battle. So it might just be a 3-way Alcantech up towards the front, and that is going to hinder their pace as well as we get towards the end of the race. Lap 58 of 82, and we're going to see who has done the best strategy over the course of the whole race. Still got a few drivers out the front, and of course we've got the Alcantech cars, but actually they have jumped the Alcantech cars. So Alcantech are a lot further back actually than I was expecting. I thought this was going to be a lot closer. So it's funny how these games have worked out. And actually, it seems like Alcantech maybe were just playing the strategy to get the playoff points.
Possibly, yeah, quite possibly. So maybe they've gone for that and sacrificed the rest. But of course, if there's a caution, they're right back in it. And the caution, you go in, get some new tyres on. Everyone's got the opportunity to go and put 4 new tyres on if they want it for that run to the flag. And remember, back in 2000, when Dale Earnhardt scored his last ever NASCAR win, he came from 17th with 4 laps to go to win the race. So that is what can happen here at Talladega.
Oh, absolutely. There's still so much to be played for. And I do wonder, so there's a 5-second swing that has happened to the way of those front 3 Ford Esports cars. And of course, they would have had a shorter stop, which is very true. But then, of course, Alcantech had the shortest stop earlier. So it's interesting. It has now gone back to 5 seconds. But of course, that is how the strategy has worked out. Aronson has dropped off. So Aronson is just ahead of Linus Brostrom, who is also just ahead of the 3 Alcantechs. So they do have some cars to push, but that 5-second gap might be a little bit more difficult to close down in these final 20 laps or so. But as we hit lap 60 of 82, still strategies are coming our way. But while we try and work that out, we'll go a little bit of race spot side by side and get some messages from our partners.
Behöver du en bil? Mabe hyrbilar finns på över 150 platser i landet och vi har nästan lika många modeller att välja på. Mabe hyrbilar. Hyrbilar som passar dig.
And welcome back to Talladega as we come in towards the final 20 laps of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan's regular season as we find out our 15 drivers to go to the playoffs over the next couple of months and of course eventually the season champion. But for now we have some strategic games going our way here at the Alcantech Racing Race 350. Alcantech, they did a great strategy to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the stage, but as the strategy worked out and how the maths has worked out, they're now further off the lead. We got Force 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the Alcantech cars dropping down a little bit as they also need to save some fuel potentially compared to the drivers around them who are going flat out towards the end of the race. So what it's left us with is, of course, Holmgren up towards the front, Jesper Eriksson in behind, and then the 112 of Fredriksson inside your top three who have a breakaway at the front. But it's not all over yet. We've stayed green from the start to the present lap, but you never know how things are going to go around Talladega. It's myself, Cameron Roger, got Peter Mackay alongside me in the commentary box and Dane Baird on the production of this RaceSpotTV broadcast. And Peter, it's certainly an interesting one with how the maths has worked out. These three at the front have clearly done it the best so far, but is it going to be these three on the podium at the end of the race?
Too early to tell, I think. Far too early to tell. But of course, in car 37, there you've got Jesper Eriksson, our championship leader and 5-time winner this season. Can he make it 6, and can he do it at one of the tracks that really every NASCAR driver wants to win at, Talladega? It's one of the, in golf we have the majors. Well, Talladega is definitely one of those in NASCAR terms.
Oh, definitely. It's one of the big tracks, both figuratively and metaphorically as well. As look at that, they get a bit of a bye from that's a couple of cars who are up towards the front at the beginning of the race as well. Bratberg, Lundberg, they were there when we had the train up towards the front, but unfortunately the race hasn't worked out for some of these drivers. And Lundberg is actually one of the drivers who's just outside of the top 15 in terms of the standings for the playoff points coming into this race. Also Fredriksson, who is that 112 in third place, he is also just outside. So are they going to give him a win up towards the end, or is it going to be Holmgren that they try and bring in from the outside, who's 22nd? He needs a win to get in also to be must also remain inside the top 25 in the championship. So Force have got a bit of a game there. Which driver do they want to bump up?
Well, that's where it helps to be well liked in the virtual paddock, to be able to get that little hand, that little help sometimes. But where are we? 16 laps to go here at Talladega, so we're definitely heading towards the business end of the race. And could we possibly go here, Cam? Could we go through this entire race? We talk about waiting for the big one at Talladega, but could we go through this entire race without a caution?
I think we can, just because of how small the groups have worked out. I mean, having said that, look at the background coming through turn 2 there. There is quite a big second group, but it's still not as crazy as it is if you have the whole field. It really has obviously spread out just a bit because we've been green for so long. Normally, of course, you get cautions, it just bunches everyone up again, and then it takes, the 20, 30, 40 laps to spread out once more. But here is this second group being led by the 24 of Ericsson. So it's a 4s, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we've got Bright Esports, Skogland, and Hawkenshot there. Then also we've got Fagrel and the 71 of Linus Brewstrom. They are there inside the P7 and 8. And then we get the Alcantech trio at the back of that. But surely they're going to start battling at some point. They're going to be wanting to get every last final position. But it is a bit difficult to overtake when you just have this single sort of 7-8 car line like this.
Yeah, not having those two lanes definitely does take options away, because as soon as you pull out of that train, then you're you can get hung out to dry quite easily. So it's just easier to bump the person ahead and kind of kick the pack on a little. It's really, if you're in that second group that we're looking at right now, you're really hoping for a caution right now to bring everything back in together. Then if we effectively reset and go again, and we have a 13 lap or so shootout.
And I wouldn't be against that. And in the last couple of rounds, we've also had a 1-lap shootout, subject to the interesting caution rules that were seemingly played out by the sim. So we'll have to see if that ever comes to it. But that was also due to a time limit. Due to the fact that we've been green flagged for so long, I don't think we're going to be anywhere near the time limit of this race. We do have, I believe, an hour and 40 minutes for these races, but of course, going flat out, going to be absolutely nowhere near that. We need quite a few cautions now by this point. So let's see how this works to the end of the race. Coming across the line, going to be going on to lap 70. But look how long the run is, Peter. Here up towards the line, way after the tri-oval. There's definitely room to try something on that final lap.
Oh, there always is. Yeah, there's the very strategic placement of the finish line, and yeah, how many times have we had such close finishes here at Talladega? And of course, the last NASCAR Cup Series race at Atlanta a week or so ago, it was, well, you needed a Lightning McQueen tongue to win that race. The three cars over the line. It went the way of Daniel Suarez in the end, but it was so tight.
Yes. It's so crazy how the pushes work in this. If you get a run from some cars behind you and you just position your car perfectly just to get the push, get the run away, then it can just gain you that extra car length or so that you need potentially to get the win here. And it's certainly a tough one. But of course, if I remember back to last year, was it Ryan Blaney? I think won the second race here at Talladega, and that was of course one of the pushes for him to run up towards the championship. Maybe that is going to be a sign for someone, but maybe not. We'll have to find out, because Holmgren is there. Yes, Ericsson's not going to win this race, because I don't see why Fours would. He doesn't need another race win. He needs to help his teammates at this point. So it's going to be, if it stays green, it's going to be either Holmgren or Fredriksson that get themselves a race victory. And it's just a bit of a team game there. But if we ever get a caution, then it just opens up for all of these drivers here in behind to have a go.
Well, it's certainly Jesper Eriksson. He does not need to worry about getting in the playoffs. He's well and truly locked in. And yeah, there are a few of those Force esports cars that do need that little bit of a leg up, shall we say, to get a strong spot in the playoffs. leading group have got a few lap cars in there, as it seems too.
Yeah, it's definitely been a tough a tough race for some of these drivers. So the 1, 2, 3 there at the front, then there's 4 lapped cars in behind. So even if the train in behind catch up, which they're really not going to at this point, being 6 seconds behind, even if they did, they've got 3 extra cars to go for, and 2 of them are Force Esports cars as well. So Force have 5 cars inside this top train, and of course the 24 of Ayrton's leading the second train, so they would have 6 cars to battle themselves for the win, if that was ever to happen in these final 10 laps that we come into to end the regular season before we go to Chicagoland, which of course is a very different style of circuit, on the 14th of March. So that's in a couple of weeks' time, where we start the round of 15, and then it's just 2 races for each round. So we've got Chicagoland and Richmond for round of 15. Then we cut off 5 drivers, and we have the round of 10, which is Michigan and Dover, before we get to the final 6 for the final round. Sorry, the final 4, I should say, for the final round of the championship. So it's going to be very, very, very tight in those 2 races, Peter, because you only have 2 races to get yourself up inside that top 10.
Whenever I think of Chicagoland, I think of the giant Tropicana orange breaking its way onto the track.
That goes above my head, unfortunately, in my knowledge.
So there was years ago. There was a Chicago. There was back in 2004. There was a giant Tropicana orange, basically broke away from its mounting and ended up on the track and caused a caution.
All right, I'm YouTubing this as we speak, because I need to.
You think I'm winding up?
That is a huge orange. That is massive. I don't know how I haven't seen this video before. That's amazing.
Yeah. So there you go. Maybe that's what, with 7 laps to go, we get a massive orange coming onto the track because it throws the yellow out there. Maybe iRacing could laser scan the Tropicana orange.
I was wondering, like, what does he mean by a big orange? That is a big orange. Inflatable orange going down. It's an interesting track, as we see a couple of the Force drivers. They're going to try and make this a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and get past up towards the front. But Chicagoland itself is a very weird circuit, and that's actually going to be quite difficult for the drivers to navigate. I think when we get to there, it's not going to be the easiest one. And of course, being in the playoffs, you don't really have much much choice but to just push your way to the front. So that is certainly going to be a tricky one for these drivers. Of course, 1.5 mile, but it's very sort of open. There isn't necessarily a straight as such. You're always turning.
Big long parts of this set. Oh, bit of contact here. We might have a caution here. And we do. Oh. 6 laps to go. We nearly went the whole race through without a caution, and then 2, I think those were 2 lap cars as well, got together.
And that is going to ruin the day, potentially, for Force. And as you say, it was some lapped runners who were a little bit further down. I think it might have been Bratberg and Lundberg, I should say, who were involved in that. And that is going to change the complexion of the final few laps of this race, as we will get a couple of laps only shootout to the end of the regular season. And then, you know what the saying goes, cautions breed cautions, and we do have some green-white checkers available to us. So there's plenty of opportunity. Force Esports were looking to get their man Lucas Holmer into the top 15 by virtue of the final win of the regular season, but it might not be that easy now.
Now what do you do here? Do you keep the tyres you've got on and maintain your track position, or do you go in and throw new tyres on and start from near at the back of the group?
I think you've got to stay out at this point. Surely it didn't work out for Jesper a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Well,
he can't make the same mistake again. I hope he doesn't, but let's see.
Old Man and Solo, the 2 Alcantech Mustangs, they're 29 laps into a stint, so they might have to throw the dice. But they're back in 13th, 14th, so
look who comes in.
Got a bit of a split.
Yep, you're right. I believe that was the Alcantech cars. Yes, it was. They came in. And it might also be on fuel, because at this point they know there's going to be some green, white checkers. So you need to have enough fuel potentially for those ones as well. They're going to have fresh tyres, and they're going to have the fuel that they need to the end. Or is it no tyres? Is it just a splash and dash? I believe the cars are staying on the ground there. So I think it is just a splash of fuel as their teammate comes in. But I didn't see the cars go up, so I believe that might have just been the fuel.
I don't understand why, if you're coming in, you might as well put new tyres on.
I do agree on that one, but maybe it was also just look at all these cars coming out. Maybe they just want to stay as far to the front of the train, because tyres haven't been as big of a drop-off as we've been seeing at some other tracks. So just trying to get themselves as high up the train, but this is certainly looking good for fours.
Well, depends how many goes at it we get. Who's going to come out on top here? We're going to have a Talladega shootout. This is what we came to see, Cam.
Yeah, and this is why this style of racing is so funny, because you might sit there for an hour and nothing happens. Just a lot of bomb drafting. And then all of a sudden you get one caution at the right point in the race and it completely changes. It's going to be lap 79 across the line. And then there, of course, will be 4 laps remaining, including lap 79. So then there'll be probably another lap behind the pace truck. So it's probably going to be a 3-lap shootout towards the end. So this is going to be big, potentially for some drivers. If someone a bit lower down can get themselves a place in the top 15, let's see. As all the 111 just came up there on Lundberg. That's a little bit of a weird one, actually. We'd have to see that one again from the 111's point of view. But I don't know about what you think, Peter, but that looked a little bit funny.
It did seem a bit clumsy anyway. Yeah, just quite abruptly went up the racetrack when it was quite clear that somebody alongside. So yeah, strange one there for Anton Bratberg and that Toyota. This will give us a better idea of just how much he went up the racetrack. So tried to throw the block.
Right.
Tried to throw a block.
But he was going right as the corner started. It was... That's
a Doc Hudson.
Turn right to go left. I don't know. That's just a bit of a weird one to me.
A block, and he made a complete dog's dinner of it.
Yeah, but it was so late because he was...
Oh, yeah.
He was still turning right as the track was starting to go left. Obviously, I mean, it's micro adjustments, but let's see this one again. I know he was turning. No. I think the car was just so on the limit.
It was just pushing.
Yeah. Very, very unfortunate incident, to be honest, as it was for drivers who, respectfully, were not sort of influencing the racing too much at that time, but they have done a big influence. As Peter, in just half a lap, we're going to go back to green flag racing, and it's going to be a 3-lap dash.
Well, Talladega shootout, here we come. There have been so many of these over the years. Who's going to come out on top? Our 5-time winner and championship leader, Jesper Eriksson, right there in the front row in the 37 Chevrolet. See what he can do. Watch out also for the 24 Force Esports Chevrolet of Alexander Arildsen, who's had 2 wins on the season. So we definitely got a lot of our all-stars up there at the front to fight for this.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one as well for Force because, of course, we go side by side. So they're going to have to do something to block off the Bright Esports cars of Schott, Skoglund, and Brewstrom as well. Of course, Fagrel, not in the Bright Esports car, but of course the fiance of Linus. I'm sure they are speaking to each other as we come back to green flag racing. The pace truck comes in. 3 laps remain. It's the Alcantech Racing Race 350. It doesn't look like they're going to be winning their own race. They won the stage. But which one of the Forza Esports cars is going to be leading at the end of these 3 laps? Or is it going to be someone else to steal the final win of the regular season as we get in towards the restart zone? We go black to green flag racing, and it'll be Lucas Holmerin in the 021 machine who gets us going underway as the Forza Esports do a 2x2, getting a bit of a jump from all of the cars in behind. We see a bit of a push from Gunnarsson and the Alcantech cars on the outside. We've got a lot of work to do to get up to the front.
So here we go then. A few laps of a dash here at Talladega. And of course the driver up there who's not in the top 10 right now is in fact just gone off of our time screen there, in fact. So yes, it's the 37, the championship leader, Jesper Eriksson, who leads the way right now, leads the championship and leads the race.
And look at the outside lane, the Alcantech cars. I noticed that they got to run, although they're going up so close to the wall. They try to make that outside line work, and they have gained a lot of positions, but they need to keep that momentum going on the outside line. I believe one of the Bright Sports cars, it might be a talking shot there on the 101, leading that train as they come across the line to come on to the penultimate lap of the race. Just over 5 miles remaining, and who is going to come out on top? We still don't know. The cars are moving left, they're moving right. They're trying to work out what is the fastest strategy to get towards the front as Skoglund goes to the front of the outside line, the high line, but on the inside line is now Jesper Eriksson leading from Aradsson and Holmerin as that is all swapped around.
Yeah, there's a guy's trying to make the high line work there, but it doesn't really seem to be. Seems like the low line's the one to have as Jesper Eriksson, race leader, tucking down low with a 24 of Arildsson right in behind him. So it's Chevrolet from Chevrolet. In fact, it's a Chevrolet top 6 right now.
And look how close they are, all bump drafting down this tri-oval section to come and start the final lap of the race. We've got Jesper Eriksson leading the way, but will he be leading after 2.6 miles of racing? He's got 3 of his teammates in behind. Are they going to try and change this around to get one of his teammates that final win of the season, which would be so helpful for them? And let's see what happens. Final lap time on towards the back straight. 37 leads the way. They got Holmerin, potentially he needs a win to get himself inside the playoffs. We've got Fredriksson as well. He could really do with it, but on the outside line, we've got the 4 going to the high line. Is it going to work for Amelie Fagrel as he gets a push in behind as well from the 84 machine, but it's not enough. We've got a front 4 breakaway as we come out of turn 4 for the final time this race. It's going to be one of the Forza Esports drivers surely, but there's a middle train coming, and through the tri-oval section, it looks like it's going to be Jesper Eriksson coming towards the line. Oh, but there's a crash though. The 24 goes up in the air as the 37 comes across the line to take his 6th race victory of the season, and it is going to be after 82 laps of racing Jesper Eriksson who takes victory, but it wasn't without carnage in the end as Fredriksson, who managed to get in second place, but in behind I think it was the 2 teammates who went around. Gunnarsson for Alcantech ends up in 3rd, but that was absolute scenes as Holmerin and Aradsson, the teammates, collide coming towards the line, and it was Aradsson who ended up in the air.
Yeah, Arlson got really punted out there coming to the line. I'm not quite sure who was behind him, but it was, the firm impact and into the wall he went. It ended up being classified in 12th position, did Arlson. So, tough end to the race for him. But, 6th win of the season for Jesper Eriksson. Goes into the playoffs in the best possible way.
And I wonder if Aradsson is going to break a record for the highest altitude whilst going across the start-finish line. That was quite something, the way he went up in the air, but of course hitting the wall hard. But it was his teammate, the 37, who is looking so good for this championship. And what an important time as well. At Alcantech's own race, the Alcantech Racing McRace 350 goes to a Forza Esports driver. And despite the strategy that was looking like it was going to work at one point for Alcantech, it just didn't work out in the end. It was a solo P15, Blick 16, Hafliderson 17th, so it didn't quite work out. But I don't think they're going to be worried too much about that as their attention now goes to the playoffs in a couple of short weeks' time. But for Forza, I think they're going to be a little bit disappointed that they didn't get a race win there for either the 112 of Fredriksson or the 021 of Holmerin as well. That was a good opportunity for them. And of course, we'll have to wait until all of the penalties and everything are sorted over the next couple of days to work out who exactly got inside the top 15 of the series. Let's get some results for you as we try and work our way towards the interviews. I see that we've already got a couple of the Forza Esports drivers in there, but let's confirm what we've seen. But actually first, let's get a replay. So we got Ericsson in first place, the 24 of Ericsson. Holmgren goes to the right-hand side. Interestingly, to get the run, were they trying to force that into a run? But then the 24, they obviously weren't in communication, and the 24 gets turned hard into the wall, and then underneath goes the 021. And the 24 actually barrel rolls all the way along the line. Of course, it's a long run. So many cars go through. As you say, Peter, classified 12th in the end. And that is a big, big shame there for the 24. But they obviously just weren't quite in communication as they all went, looks like, for their own result towards the line. And ended up with looking like this. Ericsson leads the way, Fredriksson in second place, and it was Gunnarsson in fourth. Tony Uvenum got fourth place, Oman in fifth, Fagrel there in sixth place, Holmer, Ericsson, Broström and Scherp inside your top 10, with Gunnarsson actually getting the fastest lap, a 47.8 on the final lap of the race. What a push he got there. But there are your top 10 drivers. And in the end, a whole mixture of Toyotas, Chevys and Fords. Holmer and Alwardsson end up in P11 and 12 after their contact. Skoglund shot Solo Blix, Hafliderson. Disappointing day for the Alcantech cars there. Tyr, who was up there towards the front in qualifying, as long as Peter Helmbro as well. I believe he was on the front row. He finishes 19th, and Marcus Hogman there in P20 after a couple of issues today. Allard, Nyholm, Wallen, Broström, Erling, Fors, Lundberg, Holmbaum, Johansson and Lundell round out your top 30. All these drivers are lapped down after some issues today. And then the final drivers of Gantz, Oliver Wallen, Zackerson and Anton Bratberg, who end up 7 laps down. But of course, we go towards the interviews because there's a lot to discuss from this one. We'll bring in Jesper Eriksson, who we've spoken to a few times this season, but for the good reasons. Out of those 15 regular season races, you won 6 of them, so over a third of the season. But I mean, it wasn't looking like you were going to win that race, but the final caution just helped you a little bit.
I don't know how to frame this, but I hoped I didn't win. You can kind of say I hoped Lucas was going to get the big win. Just pushing him and me and Oscar, but caution came out and that way just kind of got unorganized and didn't know what to do. And I guess I got the win. I don't know if I'm going to be happy, or of course I'm happy for a win, but I wanted Lucas to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. We sort of worked out what your strategy was, but talking of strategy, were you a little bit worried when you saw Alcantech pit after like 14 laps or whatever it was? It was quite early.
I saw it like, okay, I don't know what our strategy is. I just follow Alex and see what he does, and it worked out. I had no idea about our strategy. I did not do any math because I'm terrified of strategy after Pocono, so I'm just gonna leave it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you got that final restart, of course, you're on the outside line, and naturally you ended up ahead with the 24 behind you. Did you know that they were going to battle themselves and have a crash coming across the line? That must have been quite scary in your mirrors, seeing the teammates flying upside down.
Yeah, I saw that. It's a mistake from Lucas, so it happens. Not the best, but not much you can do. He's quite inexperienced. It's just a learning curve for everyone in Force at the moment.
Oh, absolutely. And how are you feeling going towards the playoffs? Of course, leading the way, but there's still quite a lot of work to do. There's 5 races if you want to win the championship.
Well, if you look at my playoff season last year, it was atrocious. It did not work out at all for me. I pretty much just wrecked every other race, but this season I have quite a lot of playoff points, and it's feeling quite confident. I just suck at home, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, good luck. Well, we'll wish you luck, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks at Chicagoland.
Oh, very nice. Have you guys.
Yep, see you later. And next, we'll bring in Oscar Fredriksson, the 112 machine, who was just on the bubble there inside the, trying to get inside the top 15. And of course, you have to wait till everything works itself out to see if you have officially got yourself inside the top 15. But you gave it a good run today, Oscar. And in the end, a second place. How do you feel after that?
Yeah, a bit of a shame there with Lucas and Alex. Would have been nice to be top 4 from the same team, but did what I had to do to try and get to the playoffs. Got some good points, so I think I made the top 15, but we'll see once it all settles out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been good for you. Of course, struggled in a couple of races here and there, but overall, I think you must be pretty happy with your season. You've really come through with a lot of pace, so especially in the second half.
Yeah, definitely happy with this season. Big step forward from last season, I think, for me. I've missed a few races this season and had some unfortunate incidents as well, so I haven't been able to get the points reflecting my pace maybe, but yeah, really happy with my step up and to make the playoffs this season again.
Absolutely. And should that playoff place be confirmed, what do you think you can do over the 2 races inside the round of 15? Do you think there's hope that you can get inside that top 10?
Yeah, definitely. I just need to work with my teammates, be well prepared and have good strategies and try and get all the points I can, and it's definitely possible.
Yeah, certainly. And congratulations for your P2, and hopefully we'll speak to you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully. See you guys.
See ya. And lastly, for the podium runners, we go to Jonas Gunnarsson, of course, in the number 1 machine, trying to hold on to his championship over the course of the next few races at the playoffs. But I just wanted to ask you about the Alcantech situation today. Your strategy was quite something with that early pit stop, but it did mean that you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the stage. So I guess that was your plan all along.
Yeah, it was. And we were so close to going to the finish line also with a few. But bad pit stop and all that, and we screwed it up everything at the second pit stop. So, yeah, congrats to Jesper, and Oscar was second, I think.
And do you think, well, I guess it's a little bit soon to reflect, but do you think it was sort of the right strategy to go? Because it seemed if it was green flag to the end, you were going to be about 5-6 seconds, or maybe even a little bit more of getting up towards 4s. So was it really just the short-term approach for the stage points?
No, I think if we would have pitted like 2 laps later on the first pit stop, we would easily go to the finish line. And if we didn't do such a bad second pit stop, we would be like 7 seconds in the lead, I think, and going to the finish line. So I think it was a good strategy, but like 2 laps short or something.
And talking of strategy, you pit at the caution, but I believe you only took fuel. Was that right? No tires.
Yeah, because we were so close on fuel. So.
Yeah, but you had a mega run off the restart though, so you really pushed yourself up towards the front. Did you think when you saw the cars crashing coming to the finish line, do you think you might have just been able to sneak the win?
Not the win, because the side ref was so huge from the outside lane, and I think the other guys at the top didn't have the side ref on them. So, yeah, going 3 wide at the restart there was a really good call, and. Too bad I hit the wall a little bit in turn 3 and screwed the guys behind me up, but managed to have the speed to P3.
Yeah, it's definitely a strong race in terms of pace, though. So good luck in the playoffs. And
thank you. And I also want to thank Nyman Racing and the guys in Alcantech.
Yeah, you guys certainly did a good job, and thanks for sponsoring the race and giving us a nice race 350 to end the regular season.
Yeah, thank you too.
Cheers. And lastly, we will bring in Linus Broström in the 71 machine, who of course ended up in P9, but was running up towards the front for quite a lot of the day. Then went into the second pack. But you see right on the rear bumper, it's a girl. So Linus, you are having a baby in a few months' time. It looks like it's going to be a girl. Another woman, hopefully, to add to the sim racing world in a few years.
Hopefully. Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be a few years, like you're saying, but yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a change. I just hope I can keep racing. So we'll see. Yes,
certainly time is going to be a little bit of the essence. But while you still have it, we've got this season to focus on. You've got yourself 1 race win, back up inside the top 10 today. So still being fairly strong. What can you hope for in the playoffs?
well, it's quite a good mix of tracks. So I just need to put some more time into practice, and hopefully I'll be able to make it to the final again. Then for some reason I put the final at one of the tracks that I am the worst at. So that's going to be a challenge if I ever get there. But, we had to choose between like Phoenix and Homestead to keep it somewhat realistic still. And we have one race winner in 5 races at Phoenix, I think. So that was pretty out of the question right away. So it had to be Homestead, even though I hate that track. So I have to see how that goes. But I'm just going to take it race by race. And, I'm racing. There are 8 spots available, or 9 spots available, basically, in the first round. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to get there. Then for the final round, I'm racing for 4 spots. So that's going to be a bit tougher. But if I can just keep consistent and maybe get another playoff point or 2 in the first round, that's going to help. And obviously finishing 3rd in the standings as well is going to be a big boost. And, Jesper winning today was probably the best thing that could happen, since he's pretty much already locked into the final. Him getting even more points doesn't really matter to me. It just takes points away from all the others. So him winning, if I or my teammates don't win, is probably the best thing that could happen. So I'm still hopeful that I'll get to the final 5 at least.
Absolutely. And what do you think of Chicagoland as the opening round of the playoffs? How do you think that race is going to go down?
Well, it's a great race, multi-groove racetrack, which is why we put it there. I haven't raced it in a while though, but I think it's going to be a pretty spectacular race. It's going to be what I was hoping that today was going to be, hopefully. So we'll see. I was completely wrong about today though. Single file all day long and 1 caution at the end. So at least you got a dramatic finish, I guess.
Yes, certainly it was good. So it's always nice to speak to you, Linus, and we wish you luck for the playoffs in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you.
And that concludes the interviews here for the final round of the regular season, but we still have 5 races to go. We've got Chicagoland in a couple of weeks on the 14th of March before we work our way through to Richmond, Michigan, Dover, and of course Homestead, Miami for the final of the championship. There on the right-hand side of your screen, we started way back in August. We're going to go all the way to May 2024. It's a long run in this championship, and Jesper Eriksson is looking strong as ever. And certainly it's going to be a tough one at Chicagoland, as Linus was mentioning, multi-groove track, side-by-side racing all the way for 145 laps at the Bright Esports Arena 350. So Bright Esports, Linus' own team, sponsoring that one, and we can't wait to see. But of course, remember, for the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan, we also have the Formula Series, the Road Course Series, which of course continues on as well. But that is not here for a couple of weeks, so that'll be back after when we get up towards the Red Bull Ring. So it's certainly going to be very fun over these next few weeks and months until we end both those series. But it's all here on Thursday nights on RaceSpotTV, and we've absolutely loved broadcasting that. It's been myself, Cameron Roger, Peter Mackay alongside me, Dane Bed on the production of this RaceSpotTV broadcast. And from here in the commentary booth, we wish you a very warm goodbye.